and houses built there, but certainly there are problems, and I don't think many of them are going to go back to their areas. And the issue of nuclear radiation and compensation in particular, this compensation issue is going to be a long drawn issue in Japan, because around the Fukushima nuclear power plant, about 20 kilometers, all the agricultural land and other lands, they are heavily contaminated through radiation, and I don't think there will be any activity in that part of Fukushima at all. So what these people are now trying to get from government is compensation, but as you know, compensation issues are so difficult, and the Japanese government again doesn't have that kind of money. TEPCO is almost broke, so how this is going to be resolved, to resolve is anyone's guess at this stage. Now there are several issues that emerge from this triple disaster in Japan. One is problems of governance, in which I am very much interested. Just to tell you very briefly, the Japanese government, or the Japanese system has got a three-tier governance system. The national government, then they have the prefectural government, then they have municipal governments, and within municipal governments there are towns and cities and villages. So there are layers of governance, government in Japan, and this is a very vertical structure in one sense, that is top down. But when a crisis like this hits, it becomes quite a problem, because the municipal government depends upon prefecture, and prefectural government depends on the national government. So there is a lot of kind of blame shifting going on in Japan, and as a result, people don't know who to go to. They go to their municipal offices. Oh, sorry, we are not getting any help from the prefectural office, and you go to prefecture, they will say about the national level politicians, those kinds of things. So there is a huge issue of governance there in this centralized system in Japan. And as I said, it's not easy for Japan to allocate so much resources in one go, because the Japanese government is one of the heaviest indebted governments in the world. Greece or Italy or Spain, they are nothing in front of Japan, because the Japanese debt is 200% of its GDP. I mean, roughly Japan's GDP is about $5 trillion US, about 3-4 times of Australia's GDP, and double of that GDP is government debt, 12 trillion US debt. But still, Japanese yen is very strong. Obviously, somebody is thinking that you can make some money out of from Japan. What is happening that as a result of this, people's confidence in government has declined, and declined drastically and dramatically. So there is a lack of trust in government. As a matter of fact, there is kind of disdain for politicians and bureaucrats in Japan. When I started studying Japan 35 years ago, everyone was talking about how efficient the Japanese bureaucracy was. I remember Chalmers Johnson, the late Chalmers Johnson, wrote a book called Mitty and the Japanese Miracle, in which he talked about nothing but how the bureaucrats were so innovative and so policy-driven in the national interest that they were the ones who were behind the economic growth of Japan. But the same bureaucrats, I must tell you, people don't hold very high regard for these people. And why won't they? In Japan, which has come out very clearly in this particular case, what they call there is an iron triangle. And this iron triangle consists of business, bureaucrats, and politicians. They work in sync, They help each other. But as a matter of fact, from people's perspective, you don't know where decisions are being made, who to go to, where to go to, and who will help them. Because this is very faceless men. It's hard to know. And TEPCO, which is the Tokyo Electric Power Company, this is one of the largest utility companies in the world, as a matter of fact. TEPCO is just one company in Japan that serves the Kanto area in terms of utility electricity, but this is, I think, this was second or third largest utility companies in the world. But TEPCO has been rather infamous for its deceit and lies. As a matter of fact, this is not the first time that a nuclear crisis has happened in Japan, but not on this scale. Smaller scale nuclear crisis took place in Japan, and there were reports that when those things happened, TEPCO falsified some of its data. It was in 2002, as a matter of fact, in Niigata Prefecture, which is on the Japan seaside. So TEPCO has a reputation of giving false information. So whatever information was coming out from TEPCO, people did not believe that information. And lots of things which the then Prime Minister Kan Naoto was saying was based on the information which was coming out of TEPCO. So as a matter of fact, people knew that through the social media, and they thought, no, we are not going to accept what TEPCO is saying through the Prime Minister and through the cabinet, Chief Cabinet Secretary. So politicians also at that time were exposed very, very badly in Japan. Partly because of the lack of communication, and communication which they were providing was coming from TEPCO, so people did not trust whatever information was coming. As a matter of fact, it is quite bizarre that in December last year, it was reported that since 3/11, there were no minutes recorded or available of this disaster management, and what happened at the cabinet level, what happened at the parliamentarian level. No records, no minutes have been kept, and it has come to light that even in 1995, at the time of the Kobe earthquake, no records, no minutes are available of cabinet meetings as to what they talked, what they did, what kind of measures they were going to take. Quite bizarre in Japan. Now, let's look at some of the brighter side of this crisis. We know the darker side of this crisis. The brighter side of this crisis is that Japan has been notoriously, is known as a country where people depend upon bureaucrats and politicians, and they think they do the right thing, and politicians think they do the right thing, and people don't know how administration works, so listen to us and you will be all right. But that culture in Japan is changing, and changing very fast. And we have seen the rise of a large number of citizen-based organizations, both they are from national, these organizations which have come and helped, but we have also seen in Japan lots of international organizations coming into Japan and helping and working with local NGOs and NPOs, that is non-profit organization members, and so on and so forth. Talking of foreign countries, I will come a little bit later on Australia on that as well. But what is most remarkable is the role of the self-defense force in Japan. And the operation which they had with US troops stationed in Japan, called Operation Tomodachi. Tomodachi means